So I begin with my presentation. So as far as postal stationery is concerned, the postal stationery issue preset the adhesive postage stamps. So we should understand some background about the subject before going directly to the envelope section. So if you see the history, in the Venice Republic, the AQ sheets were issued during 1608 to 1797, and these sheets were having a coat of Venice stamp, a coat of arms of Venice stamped at the top of each numbered sheet in between the alphabets A and Q. Issued during 1608 to 1797 that I told you, and are proclaimed to be the first stationery issues. However, their purpose was to collect a tax on letters to or from government officials rather than any prepayment of postage in the usual sense. So their intention was to collect the tax on letters from the government officials. The next experiment, or would say, is from Sardinia, Cavallani letter sheets from 1818 to 1829. Since 1972, Sardinia authorities had required the payment of a postal tax, and this was applicable at any post office on any letter, regardless of whether it was delivered by the postal service or in actual person by the sender. Obviously, it was difficult, to collect all these, and it was very complicated. So they decided with a practical solution, and in November 1818, they come out with a prepaid letter sheets. They issued Cavallani, that is a little horseman, which you can see at the top of the uh, envelope or the letter sheet in blue, in three denominations in 1819 with a stamp device showing a post courier riding on horse and blowing his horn, which prepaid a tax on paper and was allowed to pass through post free. These were issued in three different denominations: 15 cents for a delivery up to 15 miles, 25 cents for up to 35 miles, and 50 cents for an unlimited distance. So these were the first two, I would say, experiments on the postal stationery. Then the real thing came with embossed envelopes of New South Wales. As we all know that Sir Rowland Hill, the postal reformer, came out with an idea of universal penny post. His basic idea was to charge before the delivery depending on the weight and not on the distance. So he was interested in charging the letters on weight and not on the distance. So he floated his idea. He came out with a lot of pamphlets, and during the 1830s, and that time one of the pamphlet received the desk at the desk of James Raymond. James Raymond was the Postmaster General of New South Wales. So he took the idea and he came out with a letter sheet and an embossed envelope having a seal of Sydney General Post Office. As you can see, the seal consists of a royal coat of arms of United Kingdom and a lion and unicorn on the either side of the crown shield. This basically envelope was having two embosses, one from the front, which you can see here, and the other on the flap. And the envelope was watermarked year 1838. And this envelope was available to public initially if they pay 1D each or 1/3 D per dozen for them, but there was no indication of that charge on the design. And these were valid only for the use within the town post of Sydney Post. So it was limited to Sydney territory only, post territory only. So these are indeed actually I would say, the first postal stationery which really was actually used. Then came the Mulready stationery, which is the world famous issue of Great Britain. As I told you that uh, Sir Rowland Hill has already floated the idea. Government actually asked Rowland Hill, the finance department asked Rowland Hill to come up with the idea. They made some changes, and Rowland Hill came with the advertisement in the Times newspaper, and a competition was announced to find the best design for a prepaid postal sheet with gummed edges. So prices of pound 200 and pound 100 for the best two designs were offered by the Minister of Finance. More than 2,600 entries were received, and three additional prizes of pound 100 were awarded. Among the ideas produced were the use of sheets of paper with a watermark, embossed stamp marks, and images with such adornments that would be difficult to make. There were also some suggestions from stamp wrappers. The minister felt it better to choose a winner from the stamp sheet ideas because he expected little from the prepaid gummed labels. William Mulready was the winner of the first prize of pound 200 and was commissioned to create a design for a stamp sheet of paper, and John Thomson was commissioned to design the engraving in steel. The names of the designer William Mulready and engraver John Thomson were incorporated into the design. So this is how the Mulready stationery came into existence, and the Ireland-born artist Mulready was the first person to illustrate this postal stationery, and it was issued on 6th of May 1840. On screen you can see the Mulready proof of 1840, the essay of 1840, and you can see the envelope and Mulready sheet of 1840. Mulready penny envelope mailed on May 6, 1840, first day of issue, also you can see on the screen.
Excuse me, Pratisad, just adjust your face to the camera, please, because the curtains are looking, we can't see your face.
Oh. But is it required?
No, people want to see you.
Okay. I have to come out of the slide then.
No, but you are not facing to your camera.
Prasad, you don't need to come out of your slide.
प्रतिशत खाली तुम्हारा चेहरा कैमरे के सामने, हाँ आप ठीक है, ऐसे तुम दो प्रेजेंटेशन. थैंक यू.
Thank you. Okay, so I told you about the Mulready stationery, but if you see the envelopes, these envelopes were invented in 17th century, and they were really in use in France. But in UK till 1840, the envelopes were not in use. But as far as in British India postal stationery is concerned, we got these envelopes only in 1856. So when the government contacted De La Rue for the design and supplying the stationery to India, a letter to De La Rue dated 23rd October 1855 stated, "In regard to the stamped envelopes, I have the authority of the Government of India to request that you will so prepare queen head die at an expense of £50 and a special die for a value of 1 anna at an expense of £10." So initially, De La Rue came with this one on a brown diamond envelope on a thin lead paper with a colorless floral seal without imprint with a size of 102 into 64 mm. And this was a sample prepared by De La Rue. Actually, this paper is what the paper was used for the uh, half Anna envelopes, and the size is also of the same. But somehow this, instead of this envelope, the bigger size envelope of 1 Anna was basically issued first. So after this, what I feel is that since for the beginners and newcomers, we should tell them what is postal stationery is. See, postal stationery as a postal matter which either bears an officially authorized pre-printed stamp or a device or inscription indicating that a specific amount or face value of postage or fee has been prepaid towards the postal or other related services. See, this definition is important from the FIP point of view because in terms of postal stationery may literally apply to all stationery items intended to be used for any postal purpose. But as per the FIP definition, what if it is prepaid or if its pre-printed stamp is there, then only it is considered as a postal stationery. Hence, for an item to qualify to be a postal stationery issue, essentially there must be a prepayment towards postal or other related services which should be indicated on it in some manner. There were some provisional issues also which were also sold by the post offices affixed with contemporary adhesive postage stamps, generally referred to as the formula issues. Those strictly not being a pre-printed stamp or device are included within the extended scope of this definition. However, a mere payment towards the stationery charge or cost of an item which does not cover any prepayment of postage or fee towards postal or other related services will not qualify to be as a postal stationery item. Even the prepaid customized postal stationeries stamped or printed to private order are also considered as postal stationeries. In recent years, we have seen the customized envelopes issued by India Post or even the greeting cards which are having the pre-printed stamp on them. But all these issues are considered as postal stationery issues. But field service postcards, forces letters, letter cards, hospital cards, prisoners of war stationery, then on active service items, money order forms, airgraph or telegraph forms without the embossed stamps, all these are not considered as these postal stationery issues. Even the intergovernmental postal departmental cards are not also considered as per the definition of postal stationery as postal stationery issues. Maybe over a period, this may change and we can incorporate all these items into our exhibits. So postal stationery can be classified in different ways. Like you can classify it into letter sheets, which consist of air letters and aerograms, envelopes, postcards, letter cards, wrappers, and other pre-stamp forms like I told telegraph forms are there, then airgraph forms are there, then even the postal notes, postal orders, all these are considered as postal stationery and that can be classified into this section. Then I will start with the envelope section of British India. If you see on the screen, this is the first postal stationery of British India. It's 1 brown on bluish wallpaper with lion and palm tree seal in blue on the flap. So you can see the lion and palm tree on the flap, and this is the 1 brown die. Actually, this is taken from the William Bowen's medal, this die of Queen Victoria, and the lion and palm tree is taken from the gold moher. See here, I've been talking to you about this particular envelopes comes in die 1 and die 4 with imprint 2 and knife 1. So I'll come to the first to the imprint. See, there are 4 imprints in this basically: imprint 1, imprint 2, imprint 3, and imprint 4. But in this particularly, imprint 2 is used. And if you see imprint 1, most of the imprint 1 envelopes are either with specimen or cancelled. Most of them are basically specimens. Very few are used normally. If you see the imprint, you can see De La Rue and Co London. This is in sans serif letters and it's a 2 mm tall. Again, if you see the imprint 2, then they are in De La Rue and Company London is in serif letters and it is 1.5 mm tall. If you see in imprint 1, the O of co is small and there is a dash below the O. And if you see this co in imprint, it is normal serif letter. So this is the difference between the imprint 1 and imprint 2. And this basically comes with knife 1, which I have illustrated here. You can see this. And at the top, you can see the specimen overprinted on the die. I have not used the complete specimen envelope because it will take more space. Rather, I have shown the actual issued item on the screen. So in this, die 6 is also recorded by one of our my friend Sandeep Jaiswal in his collection. But this die 6 in this envelope is used only for the specimen or cancelled one. It is not seen as a general issue, or even it is not seen in used copies. I think this die 1 and die 4 envelope of this EN1 is very rare, in a very good condition, because in India it is very difficult to get these envelopes in a good condition due to the tropical kind of weather. But if you get it from Europe or US, then you can get a very good condition envelope. On the left, you can see the table of specimens, overprint and size. You can get almost 5 different kind of specimens or specimen envelopes, whether they are either overprinted specimen or cancelled. This POS2, POS3, these are the numbers given by me. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you the table where I have compiled all this. And these POS2 and POS3, they come in different sizes like 20 into 2.75 mm, or POS3 comes in 15.75 into 2 mm. So these are different sizes in which you can get the specimens. And if you see the star mark of POS3, you can find die 1 with imprint 1. That's what I told you earlier, that generally the specimen envelopes come with die 1 and imprint 1. So this is the first envelope. Then we'll move to the second envelope. This is actually, this paper is used for this envelope is used for making this envelope is similar to the paper used for the letter sheets. So if you see, there are 2 different envelopes in this. I have differentiated it with EN2 and EN3. Actually, the envelopes are both are same, but the die 1 imprint 1 is with Turner Cane paper without chain lines, and the EN3 comes with chain lines. So what is chain lines? If you see in the second envelope, you can see these lines, thick lines. And if you see the first envelope, there are no thick lines in the envelope, you can see. So these thick lines are the chain lines, and the others are the laid lines, which are very thin. So this basically EN1 is very scarce envelope. I would say it is a very rare envelope in a mint or used condition. If you see, Captain G.S. Horseman carried out a very deep study about the letter sheets, and actually he found out first that there are two different, I would say, the papers are used for making the envelopes. One is from the Turner cane and other is from the Turkey mill. All these envelopes earlier used to produce uh, uh, basically having the I would say it's embossed envelopes, and they were initially produced singly from a pre-cut blanks, and later machines embossed a number of stamps on sheet, usually 15 to 16 spaced apart at appropriate distances and angles. These were cut from the sheet within with a knife. These stamps are embossed. Working dies were used, made from a master die or a punch, and these working dies were raised and with an envelope blank between passed against the counterpart, thus allowing the part of the design to be raised. Raised part of the design was colorless, and then again it was set against the color background. If you see, F.W. Cowan has done a lot of work on the dies. You can see I'm talking about the die 1 and die 2. All this study has done by Cowan, and he has recorded the dies from 1 to 11 except the die number 8. According to him, the die number 8 is that the die number 11 is superimposed on 3 and it looks like die 8. And I talked about the paper about the Turner cane and Turkey mill. I'll show you in the next slide how you can differentiate that. And Turkey mill paper is very rare, as only 5% of the envelopes are made from Turkey mill and 95% of the envelopes are made from the Turner cane paper. If you see, then these bundle of 16 envelopes are sold for 10 annas, and if you buy a single envelope, then it costs you 8 pies. I have shown a table of die 1 with imprint 2 with paper, die 1 without imprint Turkey mill paper, die 1 without imprint Turner cane paper. So you can, find different combinations in these envelopes. So it's a very interesting to find these items and study these envelopes. And even a specimen is also recorded in this, which I have already shown on the screen. So these are the die which I was talking about. This is die 1 and die 2. See, I have numbered them. So the number 1 indicates the die number. These are the common flaws which are generally recorded on this. And it is all the flaws indicated for a particular die in the illustration may not be necessarily present in every case. So it is possible that you can get only 3 or 4 flaws in a die. You may not be able to get all 6. So these are all different numbers, and they indicate different things, how to decipher the die. I will not go into it because then it will take a lot of time. If you are interested, then I'll share this. It is already there in the book, so you can easily go through it. So these are on the next 2 dies, die 3 and die 4. These are the, how you can differentiate the Turkey mill and Turner cane paper and watermark. You can see the Turner mill, Turkey mill 1859 watermark. It looks like this, and the Turner cane watermark is also shown. The difference between this is that you can find 20 lines per 1 inch laid lines per inch in Turkey mill, and you can find 17 lines per inch in Turner cane, and the spacing between the chain lines is also different. Then we move to the next set of envelopes. This is in 1871, banana brown on blue lead paper with lion and palm tree seal in brown on the flap was issued. You can see the brown seal here on the flap, and they were embossed with imprint 3 and imprint 4. So if you see imprint 3, Thomas De La Rue and Company, in the floral part, you can see number 9 instead of rows in imprint 3, and you can see a rose in imprint 4. This is the difference between these two imprints. If you see the knife, there are two different knives, 3 and 4. If you see the 3, it's a straight cut, 4 is a round cut. So this is the difference between the knives. Then in this EN4, you can find an envelope with die 6, die 7 and die 11 with imprint 3, or die 6 and die 11 with imprint 4, and size is 120 by 71. And in EN5, you can find die 9 and die 10 with no imprint, or even you can find no die number and no imprint in this envelope. The size is the same. You can find cancelled specimen POC1 in this envelope. And these were sold for 1 rupee for a bundle of 16, and the single envelope was available at a cost of 1 anna 1 paise. So now we'll move to the next set of envelopes. These are the envelopes with 1971 envelopes with half anna blue on white laid paper with lion and palm tree seal in blue on the flap. These both envelopes are, according to me, very scarce, in a very good condition. You can hardly find these envelopes in good condition. So if you can find this, just buy those. The first one comes in with die 4, imprint 3 or imprint 4, and knife 3. You can see the knife is in straight cut, and in the other envelope it is rounded, and it comes with no die, no imprint, and the size is same, 120 by 71. And see, Derek Lang has mentioned this envelope with die 5, no imprint, but I have talked to a lot of experts on this, and we have not actually verified this. We couldn't verify this particular die 5 on with no imprint. If you see, EN6 was sold at a 8 annas for 16 envelopes, single envelope at 8 paise, and the EN7 was sold at face value, and there was no surcharge on the stationery. You can see the cancelled overprint specimen in this envelope. Then coming to 1875, half anna blue on white laid paper with lion and palm tree seal in blue on flap. This is a small size envelope of 118 into 66 mm. No die number is recorded, no imprint, and knife 5. This is also a very scarce, or I would say it's a rare envelope. Then if you see the 1875 half anna blue on white laid paper with lion and palm tree seal in plain relief. It's a colorless seal. Here you can see it's no imprint, and it is knife 5. Both the envelopes are with knife 5. Even EN9 is also scarce, and these envelopes are sold at a face value without any surcharge for stationery. You can see two these things in the specimens. One is with both are with cancelled POC1, and particularly in EN8 you find die 4, but that this die 4 is only with the cancelled envelope. It is not available with the normal or the issued envelope. Then if you then we go to the next slide. 1877 half anna blue on white laid paper with no seal, no die number. After 1875, all the die numbers, all the envelopes are without die numbers. No die numbers were recorded on these envelopes. If you can find in the 1877 half anna blue envelope laid lines running from top right to lower left. This is an EN10. This is a common envelope, but albino variety is also recorded in this. You can even see laid lines running descending from left to right. You can find shades from pale blue to blue in this envelope. In 1877, 1 anna brown on white laid paper with lion and palm tree seal. You can see this envelope with a brown seal on the flap. There is no die number, no imprint, and it is knife 4. This EN11 is also scarce, according to me. It is not easily available with a good condition. And you can see the banana envelope wrapper where you can wrap 16 envelopes. These envelopes were sold at a face value without any surcharge for stationery. I have even illustrated the knife 6 for the EN10. Then EN10 and EN11, you can see two specimen, cancelled and specimen in both. They're with POC1, POC6. Here you can see POC1 and POS7 with different sizes. Then next is the, I would say, the 4ANA 6 orange yellow envelope on medium wow paper with knife 8. As 4ANA 6 rate in it was came into effect from 1st February 1880 for letters to UK and all Union countries via Brindisi. So this envelope was prepared, and you get this envelope. These are not scarce one, but they are uncommon in good condition. Even you can get an albino variety in this. It was also sold at a face value with knife 8, and has got 3 different varieties of specimens, 2 cancelled and 1 specimen. In 1883, half-ana green on white on brownish laid paper, laid lines running from left to right with knife 6. Size, small size envelope, 118 into 66. It's a common envelope, and albino variety is recorded in this. You can see all the cancelled dies which I have put on at the right of the slide. These 3 and the half-ana cancelled was issued. Then this is an postal notice, handwritten postal notice for half-ana, 4 and half-ana. It was issued handwritten. The public is informed that the envelope having embossed postage value of 4.5 annas will be available from the 1st July 1881 and may be obtained from the post office or from licensed stamp dealers, stamp vendors. The charge for these envelopes will be the value of the label embossed on them. So this is an interesting item. This is a postal notice, handwritten. You can see here at the bottom 350 copies of this particular handwritten postal notice. Then we move to the 1883 1ANA brown on white laid paper with knife 6, the small size 118 into 66 mm. This, according to me, this is also an uncommon item. It's not easily available, even though it is not scarce, but it's slightly difficult to find in a good condition. This is also sold at a face value without any surcharge for stationery. This is the EN15. It's a thin white laid paper, half-ana green envelope, and the size of 120 into 94 mm. It's a common envelope. You can find albino variety in this. It comes with knife 7, and this was sold for a bundle of 16, 10 annas and 8 pies, and for a single envelope the cost was 8 pies. And you can find a cancelled and a specimen in this, both of the envelopes, POC1 and POS7. These are 2 different specimens available in each of the envelope. Then we move to the next envelopes. That is 1ANA brown on thick wow or smooth wow paper. This was issued on 1st May 1886, and the size of the envelope is 120 into 94. This is a very common envelope, and it was sold for a bundle of 8, 9 annas, 3 pies, and single envelope was available at 1 anna 2 pies. You can see the wrapper of this particular envelope. Then 2 anna 6 pi in black on 4 anna 6 pi, due to the decrease in the rate of from 4 anna 6 pies to 2 anna 6 pies for the latest weighing up to half ounce, led to the existing stock of 4 anna 6 pi envelopes being surcharged 2 annas and 6 pies. So 4 anna 6 pi envelopes were surcharged, and this is also a common envelope. Size is 132 to 76 mm. You can find shifted overprint varieties in this particular envelopes. These envelopes were sold at a face value without any surcharge on stationery. And in this 1 anna thick brown, you can find two specimens. One is Canson and the other is specimen. Then this is a postal notice for the envelope of half anna and 1 anna, half anna that square envelope and 1 anna square envelope with thick paper. And it also showing the details of registration envelopes of 10 by 4.5 inches, bearing 2 annas. It's a combined postal notice for these three items. Then if you see the next set of envelopes, it is 2 anna 6 pi orange. The surcharge envelopes, after the surcharge envelopes, they issued the 2 anna 6 pi orange on white laid paper with knife is 9 in this, and the size is 146 into 83. It's also a common envelope. Albino variety is recorded in this. Even though these envelopes are common, good quality envelopes are not available in India. It's difficult to find. If you can get it from Europe, then you can get good condition material, because a lot of Queen Victoria material is available in was available sent to you Europe, so it is available there. But the King George V items are very difficult to find. They are all very difficult because good condition material is very difficult to find in India. So you can find the wrapper of this particular envelope of 2 anna 6 pies. The price for bundle of 12 was 2 rupees and single was available at 2 anna 8 pies. And you can find a specimen copy in this envelope, which is already recorded there. In August 89 again, you can see 1899 1 anna overprinted on 2 anna 6 pies orange with white laid paper. Size is 146 into 83, because again the rate changed. And this is also a very common envelope. You can find embossing double in this with one albino variety, which is recorded there. You can find shifted overprints in this. You can find a short top bar of E of the overprint 1. And these envelopes were sold bundle of 12 for 14 annas and single for 1 anna 2 pies. As the imperial penny post led to the reduction of the rate, these were 2 anna 6 pies were overprinted 1 anna. This is the postal notice for the 2.5 anna envelopes, and the other is also, you can see stock of 2.5 anna embossed envelope for foreign correspondence has been overprinted with a value of 1 anna. So this is the postal notice for the overprinted one. You can say, and the earlier is for the 2.5 anna envelope. So now we are coming to the set of registration envelopes. System of registration mail was operating in UK before 1840, and India a proper system was introduced in about 1850. However, specifically designed registration envelopes for India were not introduced until 1886. So we got the first official registration envelopes in 1886. You can see the blue on yellowish wallpaper, small size envelope with 132 into 83 mm. with imprint 1 and type 1. Type 1 means it is a center pasted envelope. You can see that the envelope is center pasted, and this envelope type 2 is side pasted envelopes. This is the difference between these type 1 and type 2. This is the imprint of Thomas De La Rue and Company, patent. These are the two small envelopes, the RE1 and RE3. I think RE1 is also common. RE3 is slightly scarce because of the side pasted. Side pasted envelopes are comparatively difficult to get. You can find varieties in RE1 like stamp blue and text in a grayish grayish green. You can see the text at the back of the envelope. You can find stamp blue and a text in ultramarine. You can even find a no stop after patent in maker's name under the flap. So this particular imprint is under the flap, and you can find this dot missing in patent in RE3. RE1, and in RE3 you can find a grayish stamp and a grayish text variety. The next one is the RE2, which is a bigger envelope in size, that is 254 into 106 mm. This is a center pasted envelope. You can find a variety stamp blue and text in grayish green. So this is the variety you can find in the bigger size envelope. Then this is the set of registration envelopes. This is the postal notice for the registration envelopes. You can find two different specimens, one cancelled and one specimen in this RE1, and in RE2 also you can find two different specimens. You can see the perforated cancelled envelope here. This is from the guard book of De La Rue. This is the from the collection of Sandeep Jaiswal's collection. So this is about the registration envelopes. Then comes the official envelopes. Initially, this 1.5 brown on white lead overprinted service and stamp was prepared, but this is not an issued envelope. This is an essay. This is a very, very scarce envelope with overprinted with service as SG type 01. This is the service you can overprint SG 01 you can find. These, I think, very few, maybe 4 copies are known. One is known from the Tapling collection. This is a very, very scarce item. This is an essay. It's an unissued envelope. The OEN one is the issued envelope, and it was issued on 1st of April 1895. Half-ana green on thin white lead paper, overprinted on HMS on the stamp with a knife 7. 120 by 94 is the size, and on Her Majesty's service is printed on the envelope. It's a very common envelope, and it was sold for a pack of 16 at a cost of 10.6 pice. In this, you can find varieties like these OEN 1 and 2 are noted with military command and government department seals and monograms overprinted on that. You can see one of the overprint which I'm showing you. This is Lieutenant Colonel, Controller of the Military Accounts, Punjab Command, and you can see the Controller of Military Accounts, Rawalpindi seal at the back of the flap. And this is the 1.5 brown on thick smooth roll paper, which was also issued on 1st of April 1895, and this overprinted with On Her Majesty's service on the envelope. This is also a very common envelope, and pack of 8 was available at 9.3 pice. These are the next set of official envelopes. After the death of the Queen Victoria, remaining stock was overprinted with On His Majesty's service on the envelope. So you can find On His Majesty's service on both the envelopes instead of her. The middle envelope, where you can see her deleted and his substituted in manuscript. So it's a pen written. These envelopes are very rare to find. I have not shown here OEN 4. Similarly, like in 1.5, you can also find the manuscript envelope substituted his in manuscript. which is, I'm not showing it here because I don't have picture or I don't have that particular envelope in my collection. Both the envelopes are very rare to find. Then these are the official registration envelopes, normal registration envelopes, overprinted OHMS, center pasted envelopes. You can see the On Her Majesty's Service overprinted on the envelope. Then on the this thing, you can find a variety that this particular variety is noted with or without stop after here. If you can see, this is the stamp where you can, this is the position where you can stick the stamp. So here it is written, the stamp to pay the postage must be placed here. So you can find this particular variety dot or with dot or without dot after here. This is the very scarce, or I would say rather rare envelope. It is printed with On His Majesty's Service, because after the date of the Queen Victoria, the remaining stock was overprinted with On His Majesty's Service on the envelope. And this is really a very scarce or rare envelope. I have not seen this particular envelope in a used condition. You can find a lot of envelopes ORE1 or the On Her Majesty's Service even in used condition. But on his is very difficult to get. This is a very scarce envelope. Then we come to the forces envelope, that is soldiers and seamen's envelopes. So you can find these two different things in this. The envelope is same, only the difference is that the line commanding officer, this is the vertical line which is written, printed here, commanding officer or head of the department. In this first, you can find the size of that line is 52.5 mm, wherein in this other envelope you can find this commanding officer or head of the department line in 54 mm. You can find almost 5 different specimens in this. One is a specimen, 3 of them are cancelled, and also you can find a stamp office cancelled Bombay hand stamp in the specimen. The variety noted with or without stop is the copy paste error, so please ignore it from the previous slide. It is not part of this. So this is the soldiers and seamen's envelopes. This is the another set of that overprinted with 1 Anna. Here the spacing is same, 52.5 and 54, and you can get these envelopes with pre-printed regimental printing. Here I'm showing you 2nd Battalion Royal 6th Regiment overprint on this envelope. This particular envelope, this 1 Anna overprint, you can find this one with a spacing of 4 mm, and you can find the envelope also with the spacing of 5 mm. This is a new find by Sandeep Jaiswal. He has recorded this in his exhibit. You can also find inverted N variety in this envelope. These are all common, but inverted N is slightly difficult to get. That is the reason why if you come across this variety, please buy it. The postal rate increased from 9 pice to 1 Anna from 1st of April 1895. That is why this overprinted envelopes came into effect. So these are the soldiers and seamen envelopes. This is the postal notice for that particular envelope of 9 pi embossed envelope overprinted 1 Anna. And here you can see that you can exchange the envelopes at the postal department. If you have 9 pi envelope with you, then you can just exchange this with any of the ordinary postage stamps in any of the post offices. This is what the postal notice is saying. So that exchange facility was available. Then these are the forces envelope, CEF. As we all know, China Expeditionary Force was an was an international army sent to China in 1900. It relieved Peking and suppressed the Boxer Rebellion. It continued to police northern China until 1906. Though small contingent remained after that, Indian stamps and postal stationery or printed CEF were used at various foreign post offices throughout China until 25th November 1923. So this is the Havana envelope EN13 overprinted with CEF. This is also, you can get this envelope, that's not difficult, but it's uncommon in a good condition. So these are the 4 envelopes. These were prepared for CEF, but they were never issued. You can see the 1 anna brown thick envelope, then 1/2 anna green thin envelope, and these Victoria envelopes of 2 anna 6 pi orange and 2 anna 1 anna 1 6 2 anna 6 pi. So these envelopes were prepared with overprinted CEF, but they were never issued. So these are very, I would say, these are sort of an essay, or these are scarce envelope. These are a bit difficult to find. Actually, this particular green envelope is not recorded anywhere. This is the first time. It is actually recorded by Sandeep Jaiswal in his collection. I think Virendra Sharma is also having this envelope in his collection. So I've taken from Sandeep's collection this particular image, but this is not recorded in any of the books. So this is a very new find in this. So this is the registered envelopes. These were prepared but never issued. Small envelope. You find both the envelopes, that is RE1 and RE3 center pasted envelope and side pasted envelope. Both the envelopes are available in this, and at the same time, the bigger size envelope of 254 into 106 is also there in this. But these were never issued. These are all unissued items, and they are very scarce. So I was talking about the specimen details. These are specimen details compiled. These are my numbers, and these are the Samuel types. You can find different specimens and their sizes and the type of printing. These are the specimen details, overprint details. These are the cancelled overprint details. You can find this table, even that is given in my book. It is there. So this is what is the end of my presentation. These are the acknowledgements. I would like to take 2 minutes for that. Ajit Singhi ji, we all know, is a great knowledgeable person in this. He is the ultimate authority as far as British India stationery is concerned. Sandeep Jaiswal, my good friend, he always encourages me and helps me. Madhukar Jingan, he has helped me a lot. Lot of information I got from him regarding the postal notices. I could find almost 30 new issue dates because of him through the notices. Colonel Jan Datta, he is also very knowledgeable, having a good collection. He is my mentor. He actually taught me how to exhibit. Virendra Sharma, my good friend, very knowledgeable in postal stationery. E.G. Bhargave, Kishore Chandak, all these have really encouraged me in, whatever I do, they really encourage me.